that Princeton University Chapel has been one of the physical places where I feel like God has reached me directly multiple times. Frankly, most of the time that I'm praying or going to church, I just have my own thoughts going through my head, and I'm not terribly recollected about what God is doing. But as I just mentioned, God told me that day when chapel and mass that I really needed him, and I finally listened. And many years later, almost 20 years later, now as a faculty member at Princeton Theological Seminary, one morning, in this past May 2019 at 7:30 a.m. I went in, and I like going to the chapel that early in the morning because nobody is ever there.
This is less than a year ago.
Less than a year ago.
Yeah.
And that morning I wanted to be alone, and I wanted to pray alone. And I got down on my knees in front of the tabernacle. They have a side chapel. It's a Catholic chapel, the tabernacle. And I was trying to pray to strengthen my young friend, John, my former student from Yale, who was very close to death. And I had been visiting him in the hospital and talking with him, and I had these hopes, as did he, that there would be a miraculous cure. And that morning, I woke up, and anyone who's ever lost a loved one has had this feeling. I felt like someone had kicked me in the stomach, and I knew his soul was going to be leaving his body very soon. And I went to pray, thinking I could somehow strengthen him in his final hours. And all I could do was sob. I sobbed my eyes out, and nothing pious was coming out of me. All I was saying was that I was mad at John for dying, which makes no sense. He didn't want to die. It wasn't his choice. I was angry at God. This makes no sense. And I had this terrible feeling of just despair. Like, I can't go on. I can't go on, because this young man had helped me start Scala. He was supposed to get his law degree from Columbia and be on my board. And now he was close to death. But suddenly I heard footsteps. And I thought, oh gosh, some undergrad decided to get up early and walk in, and they're going to find me crying, and I just want to be alone. And I didn't look up. I would not look up at who it was. And suddenly, someone knelt down and began to pray out loud, which, by the way, Catholics don't do very much.
And this was next to you?
Yes.
In this same tabernacle?
Yes. And he said, Heavenly Father, we lift our cries up to you today. And I stopped, and I realized he was praying out loud, not for himself, for me. We know that you hear our cries, and we turn our desires and our fears to you and trust in your merciful love. Heavenly Father, today, please hear our cries. And I was startled, but I realized this person was praying for me, so I thought I should at least look up. And I didn't see a student. I didn't see anyone who worked at Princeton University. I saw a man about my age with jeans and a Yankees cap. Okay, John was raised in the Bronx. He ended up being buried in the Bronx. When I couldn't visit him in the hospital, I took myself to a Yankees game to distract myself. And so I looked at this man and I said, thank you. I'm praying because my 26-year-old friend is close to death. And he said, what's your friend's name? I said, John Artunian. And he touched me on the shoulder and he said, I will lift up your friend today in my prayers. And at that moment, I believed that that was an angel who was going to help John to die in peace and go home to God.
We're going to put a pin in it, as they say. We'll be right back with Margarita Mooney. It's the Eric Metaxas Show. Hey, folks, today's Monday, I think, which means it's Miracle Monday. What a surprise that we should be talking about angels. My guest is Margarita Mooney, Ph.D. She is an associate professor in practical theology at Princeton Theological Seminary. And Margarita, you've been telling us this amazing story of about a year ago, visiting this chapel in Princeton and praying, and then having somebody kneel beside you and pray with you. It seems miraculous, but you're just about to tell us whether it is. So tell us what happened.
Well, I was startled but comforted by the appearance of somebody at 7:30 in the morning at Princeton University Chapel who seemed to know the exact words that I needed to hear.
And who's a stranger to you.
A complete stranger. Never seen him before, never seen him again. I go there all the time at that time of the day, and I'm telling you, there's never anybody there. But after the angel told me his beautiful prayer, knelt down beside me and prayed for me and told me he would be praying for my friend John, who I believed was very close to death. I was comforted in the sense that I wasn't alone and John wasn't alone, but I couldn't stop crying. I kept sobbing my eyes out even after the angel left.
Now, you say even after the angel left. Why did you think then that it was an angel?
I did. Because it was so strange and it was so perfect. It was so out of the place, and I couldn't think a pious thought. I couldn't pray the way I thought I should pray. And then somebody comes in who I've never seen before wearing a Yankees cap and prays exactly the words I should have been able to say, but I couldn't. But here's also why I thought it was an angel. Because even though when he left, I couldn't stop crying, my prayer changed, and I felt my friend John speaking to me. And what he was telling me was that I had to carry on my mission, because when angels appear to us, it's easy to say, oh, it's just, soothing or comforting us. No, angels are messengers of God. And in that exact same spot, 15 years before, I was finishing my PhD in sociology, thought I was at the top of the world, except I couldn't get a job, typical academic problem. And I went to that chapel to tell God I would leave the academy and I didn't need to be an academic or a professor. I'd go off and take a job in international development. I'd been told 90% chance I was going to get this job. And I went there to tell God that I was giving up on my dreams to become a professor and go take this other job. And I kept hearing this voice telling me, no, your mission is in your work in the academy. And I kept saying, no, that's not my mission. That's not what I want. And I couldn't get rid of that voice. The next day, I got an email telling me that job I had been told I was going to get had fallen through. I sent an email to a professor who I admired, and I said, I'm about to get my PhD. I don't have a job, but I'd like to work for you. He gave me the job. And I've been in the academy ever since. And part of the reason I've never left is because of what happened in that chapel. And then there I am 15 years ago. I've started a nonprofit. It looks like things are going up, but I have this terrible amount of responsibility. And now the student who helped me the most.
So you mean 15 years later, right?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
15 years later. And I start to have this dialogue with my friend John, who's about to die. And I hear him telling me that, yes, I can go on. I feel like I can't go on. I feel like I can't continue this work. I feel like I'm not worthy to do this work. I don't have the strength. I don't have the intellect. I don't have the spirit. But that visit from the angel was confirming to me that, yes, my young friend was going to die, that he was going to be okay, and that I had to go on with my mission. And it's very hard sometimes to accept that. And what my friend John, one of the last things he said to me while he was still alive was that my problem was that I tried to do everything by myself. I tried to accomplish all these things on my own. And the angel appearing to me was affirming to me that I had to go on with my mission, but that I couldn't do it alone. I needed God, but I needed other people. And I felt not consoled in my pain over John's death, but I felt that in spite of my pain over John's death, I felt certainty that God had given me a mission, and I could get up and pursue that mission, even in the midst of my pain.